During dinner, my mom asked, "So, are you ready to marry your Uncle Freddy?" I replied with, "I'm ready to cut his balls off." The table went silent. My dad dropped his fork. My Aunt Beatrice looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. But honestly, I was done playing nice. Uncle Freddy isn't actually my uncle. He's my mom's best friend's son, and they've been pushing this match since I turned 18. I'm 23 now, and the pressure has gotten unbearable. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Uncle Freddy is 47 years old, twice divorced, and currently under investigation for financial fraud. But he's rich. Or at least, he was rich before the feds started sniffing around his consulting business. My parents are drowning in debt. They refinanced the house 3 times. My dad's business went under last year, and they're about 6 months from bankruptcy. Suddenly, marrying me off to their wealthy friend's son seemed like the perfect solution. Except I met someone. His name is Davin, and he's everything Uncle Freddy isn't. Kind, honest, my actual age. We've been dating for 8 months, and I haven't told my family because I knew this would happen. "You're being dramatic," my mom said, her voice sharp. "Freddy is a good man. He'll take care of you." "He's a predator," I shot back, "and I'm not for sale." My dad finally spoke up. "We sacrificed everything for you. The least you could do is think about your family." That's when I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots. Messages from Uncle Freddy to me over the past 2 years. Inappropriate comments. Photos I never asked for. Promises about what he'd do to me once we were married. My mom's face went white. You must have misunderstood," she stammered. "Did I misunderstand when he cornered me at Christmas and tried to kiss me? Did I misunderstand when he told me he'd been waiting for me to ripen?" Aunt Beatrice stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "This is slander. Freddy would never." "Freddy did," I said. "And you all knew. You just didn't care because his money was more important than me." The room erupted. My mom crying, my dad yelling, Aunt Beatrice defending her precious Freddy. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door, but then my phone rang. It was Detective Novak from the Financial Crimes Unit. I'd been in touch with them for weeks, feeding them information about Uncle Freddy's business dealings. Information he'd stupidly bragged about to impress me. "We're moving on Freddy tonight," the detective said. "But we found something else. Your parents' names are all over his accounts. They've been in business together." My blood ran cold. I turned back to look at my parents, still arguing at the table. They weren't just trying to marry me off to Uncle Freddy for his money. They were trying to tie me to him legally before everything came crashing down, so I'd be stuck cleaning up their mess. "How deep are they in?" I asked the detective. The pause before he answered told me everything. Deep enough that they'll be joining him downtown. My mom must have seen my face because she froze. "What's wrong?" I looked at her, then at my dad, then at Aunt Beatrice, who was probably in on it too. "The wedding's off," I said quietly, "and you should probably call a lawyer." Then I walked out and called Davin. I needed to tell him everything. About my family, about Uncle Freddy, about how my entire life was about to explode. But when he answered, his voice was strange, cold. "We need to talk," he said. "I just found out something about you, about your family name. My firm is prosecuting your Uncle Freddy's case, and I've been assigned to it." My stomach dropped. "Davin, my boss wants me to question you formally, tomorrow. And if you knew anything about your parents' involvement and didn't report it," he paused. "I can't see you anymore. This is a conflict of interest." The line went dead. I stood outside my parents' house, watching through the window as the police cars pulled up. Uncle Freddy's Range Rover screeched into the driveway, and he burst out, screaming about his arrest warrant. And that's when I saw the envelope on my car windshield. Inside was a single photo, me and Davin, taken outside his apartment last week. On the back, someone had written in Uncle Freddy's handwriting, "I know everything about your little boyfriend. Let's make a deal." I couldn't breathe. The photo was clear, too clear. Taken with a telephoto lens from across the street, catching the exact moment Davin had kissed me goodbye before his morning run. I was wearing his Northwestern Law sweatshirt. The timestamp in the corner read 6:47 a.m. Uncle Freddy had been watching us for weeks. My hands shook as I flipped the photo over again. The handwriting was unmistakable, that same slanted scrawl he'd used in all those messages. But there was more. A phone number written beneath the threat. The police were hauling Uncle Freddy away in handcuffs. He was screaming about his lawyer, about wrongful arrest, about how he'd sue everyone. But as they shoved him into the cruiser, he turned his head and looked directly at me. He smiled. Not a friendly smile. A predator's smile. The kind that said this wasn't over. I got in my car and drove. Nowhere specific. Just away. My phone kept buzzing. My mom, my dad, Aunt Beatrice. 17 missed calls before I finally turned it off. I pulled into a 24-hour diner off Highway 94 and ordered coffee I couldn't drink. The waitress had tired eyes and didn't ask why I was shaking. She just refilled my cup every 15 minutes and left me alone. At 2 a.m., I finally turned my phone back on. 43 missed calls, but only one message mattered. From a number I didn't recognize. TikTok. The photos get worse. Much worse. Check your email. I opened my inbox with trembling fingers. There were 57 photos, all of me and Davin. Some from weeks ago, some from yesterday, kissing in his car, holding hands at the farmer's market, one of us through his bedroom window. I was going to be sick. The email had no text, just the photos and one attachment labeled insurancepolicy.pdf. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew I shouldn't, but my finger hit download before my brain could stop it. It was a contract, a marriage contract, between me and Uncle Freddy, dated 3 months ago, with my signature at the bottom, except I'd never signed it, never even seen it. The signature was perfect though, exactly like mine. Even the little loop I make on the capital letter of my first name, someone had practiced, spent hours getting it right. There was a note clipped to the front page, already filed with the county clerk. "You married me 6 weeks ago, sweetheart. Davin's been sleeping with a married woman. Wonder what the State Bar Association will think about that." My coffee cup shattered against the floor. The waitress came over with a mop, took one look at my face and said, "Honey, whatever's on that phone isn't worth it." If only she knew. I drove to Davin's apartment, stood outside his door at 3 a.m. with my fist raised to knock, but I couldn't do it. Couldn't drag him further into this nightmare. He'd worked too hard for his career to let Uncle Freddy destroy it with one forged document. Instead, I went to my own apartment, the small studio I'd been renting since college. It was supposed to be temporary. Everything in my life was supposed to be temporary until I figured things out. I packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases. My laptop, my grandmother's necklace, the photo album from before everything went wrong. It took 20 minutes. That's when I heard the knock. I know you're in there. Uncle Freddy's voice came through the door. The police had to let me go. Funny thing about evidence, it needs to be admissible. And yours? Well, let's just say my lawyers are very good. I didn't answer. Your boyfriend's firm dropped the case an hour ago. Conflict of interest, they said. Since you're my wife and all. He laughed. Actually laughed. Now open the door. We need to discuss our arrangement. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but before I could speak, he slid another photo under the door. This one was different. It was Davin, leaving the federal courthouse this morning, with a woman I didn't recognize. A blonde in an expensive suit. They were holding hands. Her name is Vanessa. Uncle Freddy called through the door. She's a senior partner at his firm. Been working closely with him for months. Very closely. Thought you should know before you make any stupid decisions. I hung up before the 911 operator could answer. That's my girl, Uncle Freddy said. Now we can talk like adults. I opened the door but kept the chain on. Uncle Freddy looked different than he had at dinner. More dangerous. The charming facade had dropped completely. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to honor our marriage contract. We'll have a nice public ceremony in 6 months once this little legal hiccup blows over. You'll smile for the cameras, play the devoted wife, and in exchange, I'll make sure your parents don't spend the next 20 years in federal prison. They deserve prison, maybe, but do you really want that on your conscience? He leaned against the doorframe. Besides, I've been very generous in the prenup. You'll want for nothing, except my freedom. Freedom is overrated. Most people don't know what to do with it anyway. He pulled out his phone and showed me another photo. My mom and dad, being let out of their house in handcuffs. This was taken 2 hours ago. They're being arraigned tomorrow morning. Bail's been set at $500,000 each. That's $1 million. I don't have that kind of money. No, but I do. His smile was sharp. I can have them home by lunch, or I can let them rot. Your choice. I stared at him, at this man who'd been stalking me for months, who'd forged documents and fabricated evidence and now held my entire family hostage. How long? I asked quietly. How long what? How long have you been planning this? He actually seemed pleased by the question, like a teacher whose student had finally asked something interesting. Since you were 18, your parents came to me with their debt problems. I offered a solution. They agreed. It's taken 5 years to set everything up properly, but he gestured around. Here we are, 5 years, since I'd graduated high school and started college, every scholarship rejection that had seemed random, every job opportunity that had fallen through, every apartment application that got mysteriously denied until I ended up here, in this shitty studio in the bad part of town. You sabotaged me. I created dependency. There's a difference. He checked his watch. You have until noon tomorrow to decide. Show up at the county courthouse and we'll make this official. Or don't. And watch everything burn. Your choice. He walked away whistling. I closed the door and slid down against it. My phone buzzed. Davin, we need to talk. Can I come over? I looked at the photo of him and Vanessa, at their intertwined hands, at the way she was looking at him. I texted back, not a good time. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I know about the marriage certificate. I know it's fake. We can fight this. Could we? Uncle Freddy had spent 5 years building this trap. He had money, lawyers, connections. I had student loans and a waitressing job. But then I remembered something, a detail from one of Uncle Freddy's drunken brags at Christmas. He'd mentioned a property in the Cayman Islands, offshore accounts, money he was moving before the feds could freeze his assets. He'd told me because he thought I was too stupid to understand or too scared to do anything about it. He was wrong. I opened my laptop and started typing. Every detail I could remember. Dates, locations, account numbers he'd been careless enough to mention, the names of his shell companies, the real estate deals that didn't quite add up. At 5 a.m., I sent everything to Detective Novak with a subject line that read, "You arrested the wrong person first." Then I sent a copy to the FBI Financial Crimes Division, and to the IRS, and to 3 investigative journalists whose work I'd been following. My phone rang immediately. Detective Novak. Where did you get this information? Uncle Freddy has a big mouth when he's trying to impress someone. If even half of this is accurate, we're talking about $40 million in hidden assets, tax evasion, money laundering. This goes way beyond what we had him on. Papers rustled in the background. Why didn't you tell us this before? I was scared. He has photos of me and my boyfriend, forged document. He's been threatening to destroy our lives. Bring everything to my office, now. And he paused. Don't go anywhere near Freddy or your parents until we sort this out. I grabbed my suitcases and left. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. Drove to a motel outside the city and paid cash for a week. At 11:45 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. You stupid little bitch. Uncle Freddy's voice was pure venom. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm learning. The feds just raided my office, my house. They're talking about RICO charges. This is your fault. No, this is yours. I'll ruin you. I'll ruin everyone you love. That boyfriend of yours? His career is over. I'll make sure of it. And your parents? They'll die in prison. I'll see to it personally. I took a deep breath. See, that's where you fucked up. He went silent. You thought I was like my parents. Weak, desperate, easy to control. I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. But I'm not. I'm the girl who spent 5 years watching you, learning your patterns, documenting everything, waiting for the right moment. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your Cayman account, the one under Meridian Holdings. Your lawyers are going to have a hard time explaining why you wired $3.2 million there last Tuesday. The sound sound of typing, then cursing, then silence. How did you? You told me, remember? New Year's Eve. You'd had 6 scotches and you wanted to impress me with how clever you were. You even wrote down the account number on a napkin. I still have it. More silence. The marriage contract is fake, I continue. I never signed it. I've already provided handwriting samples to the FBI. When they analyze it, they'll find evidence of forgery. That's another felony, by the way. Your parents will probably go to prison, yeah, but at least they'll be alive. Unlike what you were planning for me, I pulled up the photos on my laptop, the ones Uncle Freddy thought he'd deleted, the ones I'd recovered from his cloud backup, because he'd been stupid enough to use the same password for everything. I have the pictures, Uncle Freddy, the ones from his previous marriages, the hospital records, the police reports that mysteriously disappeared. His breathing got heavier. Wife number 1 fell down the stairs. Wife number 2 had an accidental overdose. Both deaths ruled accidents. Both women heavily insured. Both payouts going straight to you. I felt sick saying it out loud. I wasn't going to be your third wife. I was going to be your third victim. The line went dead. I sat there shaking, staring at the evidence I'd been compiling for months, the pieces I'd put together slowly, carefully, because I'd known Uncle Freddy was dangerous, but hadn't realized how dangerous until too late. My phone buzzed. Detective Novak, we need you to come in, now, and bring everything you have. At the police station, I spent 6 hours going through everything. Every photo, every document, every piece of evidence I'd collected. 2 FBI agents joined us halfway through. Then a prosecutor from the state attorney's office. This is incredible, the prosecutor kept saying. How did you get all this? He thought I was stupid. People always underestimate young women. I pulled up another folder. This one's my favorite. His fake charity that was actually a front for laundering money through construction projects. The paperwork is sloppy once you know what to look for. By 8 p.m., they had enough to file 23 additional charges against Uncle Freddy. The marriage contract was confirmed as a forgery. Apparently, he'd hired someone on the dark web to create it. That person had already been arrested in an unrelated case and was willing to testify. What about my parents? I asked. The prosecutor looked uncomfortable. They're cooperating. With their testimony and your evidence, we can probably get them reduced sentences. Maybe 5-7 years instead of 20. And me? You? Detective Novak actually smiled. You're a witness, a brave one, though you should have come to us sooner. I know, I was scared. Understandable, but you did the right thing in the end. I left the station at 10 p.m. Davin was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his car. Hey, he said quietly. Hey. We stood there for a minute, not touching. The photo of him and Vanessa was still burned into my brain. The blonde woman, I finally said, is my cousin. She was helping me build a case against Freddy. I couldn't tell you because he ran his hand through his hair. Because I suspected your parents were involved and I didn't know how deep it went. I didn't know if you knew. You thought I was part of it. I thought you might be a victim. I was trying to protect you without compromising the investigation. He stepped closer. And then my boss found out I was dating you and pulled me off the case. Conflict of interest. I was so angry because I knew Freddy was going to make his move and I couldn't do anything about it. So you didn't break up with me? Are you kidding? I've been parked outside your apartment for 3 days. Your landlord almost called the cops on me twice. He smiled, but it was sad. I love you. None of this changes that. I wanted to believe him, wanted to fall into his arms and pretend everything was fine, but nothing was fine. My parents were facing prison. Uncle Freddy was still out on bail, and I was the star witness in a case that was going to make headlines. I need time, I said. I know. I'll wait. He handed me an envelope. But first, you need to see this. Inside was a legal document, a restraining order against Uncle Freddy, valid immediately. He couldn't come within 500 feet of me. How did you? My cousin, the blonde, she's actually a really good lawyer. She filed it this afternoon as soon as she heard what happened. I started crying, couldn't help it. Everything from the past 24 hours crashed over me at once. Davin pulled me into his arms and let me sob into his chest. We stood there in the parking lot for 20 minutes, until I'd cried myself empty. Come on, he said finally. You're not staying in some motel. You're coming home with me. Davin, no arguments. I have a guest room. You'll be safe, and he hesitated. You shouldn't be alone right now. He was right. I was exhausted and terrified and couldn't face going back to my apartment where Uncle Freddy had stood outside my door just hours ago. At Davin's place, he made me tea and ordered Thai food and didn't ask any questions. Just let me sit on his couch wrapped in a blanket while my brain tried to process everything. Your cousin, I said eventually. Vanessa. She really is just your cousin? Really, truly. Her mom and my mom are sisters. She's been married for 8 years and has 3 kids. I can show you the family photos if you want. Uncle Freddy sent me that picture. Made it look like we were together. Yeah, classic manipulation tactic. He sat down next to me. He's been watching us for months, taking photos, waiting for the right moment to use them. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. This is Amanda Rodriguez. I'm a reporter with the Chicago Tribune. I received some very interesting documents this morning regarding Frederick Morrison. Would you be willing to comment? My blood ran cold. How did you get my number? I'm a reporter. It's my job. Look, I know you're scared, but Morrison has hurt a lot of people. Your story could help put him away for good, and maybe prevent him from hurting anyone else. I hung up. Then I called Detective Novak. The press already has it. How? Someone at the courthouse probably leaked it. This is a big case. Multi-million-dollar fraud, sex trafficking implications. It's going to be front-page news by morning. He sighed. I'm sorry. We tried to keep your name out of it, but nothing. My life was about to become public property. Every detail, every mistake, every moment I'd been too scared or too stupid to see what was happening. What do? You talk to a lawyer. Get ahead of the story. Control the narrative before it controls you. Papers rustled. And you might want to stay off social media for a while. Too late. My phone was already blowing up. Friend requests from strangers, messages from people I hadn't talked to since high school, and news alerts. So many news alerts. Chicago woman helps FBI bust $40 million fraud ring. Local family implicated in marriage for money scheme. Frederick Morrison faces life in prison after victim comes forward. Victim. They were calling me a victim. I guess I was. The next morning, I woke up to cameras outside Davin's building. Actual news cameras. Reporters with microphones. The doorman called up at 6 a.m. to warn us. This is insane, I said, peering through the curtains. This is news. You took down a very powerful man. People are going to want to know how. Davin was making coffee, looking way too calm for someone whose girlfriend was being stalked by the media. Vanessa's on her way over. She specializes in victim advocacy. She can help. Vanessa arrived at 7 a.m. with bagels and a plan. She was exactly like Davin had described. Professional, competent, and way too intimidating for this early in the morning. First things first, she said, spreading documents across Davin's kitchen table. We control the narrative. You're not just a victim. You're a whistleblower. You're a hero. You saved lives by coming forward. I don't feel like a hero. Nobody ever does. But perception is reality in cases like this. She handed me a file. I've drafted a statement. You'll release it through my office. It explains your side, emphasizes your cooperation with law enforcement, and makes it clear you had no knowledge of your parents' involvement until it was too late. Will people believe that? Some will. Some won't. But at least you'll have said your piece. She opened her laptop. Now, Morrison's legal team is going to come after you. They'll try to paint you as a scorned girlfriend who made everything up. We need to be prepared for that. We spent the next 3 hours going over every detail, every text message, every photo, every piece of evidence. Vanessa took notes and asked questions, and occasionally said things like, "This is damning," or "A jury will love this." At noon, she released the statement. It was 2 pages. Professional, careful. Nothing I actually wrote, but everything I would have said if I could string words together properly. The response was immediate. My phone exploded. Social media erupted. Half the internet called me brave. The other half called me a liar and attention seeker. Welcome to being a public figure against your will. That afternoon, Uncle Freddy's lawyer held a press conference. He was exactly what you'd expect. Expensive suit, perfect hair, soulless eyes. My client is innocent of all charges. This is a case of a troubled young woman who became obsessed with Mr. Morrison and fabricated evidence when her advances were rejected. We have proof that she pursued him relentlessly despite his repeated attempts to maintain appropriate boundaries. Proof. What proof? Turned out Uncle Freddy had been creating his own false evidence. Fake text messages supposedly from me, professing my love and suggesting we run away together. Photos that had been photoshopped to make it look like I'd been the one pursuing him. It was brilliant, in a sick way. Every real piece of evidence I had, he had a fake counterpoint. Every text he'd sent me, he claimed I'd sent first. Every photo of him stalking me, he said I'd staged. The court of public opinion split right down the middle. Detective Novak called. Don't worry about the press. We have the real evidence. Text metadata proves who sent what and when. We have his deleted cloud backups. We have testimony from his previous wives' families. The truth will come out in court, but not in the media. No, not in the media. I'm sorry. That night, someone threw a brick through Davin's window. Attached was a note. Lying bitch, you'll pay for destroying a good man. We filed another police report. Added another piece of evidence to the growing pile. But it didn't make me feel safer. Vanessa suggested I leave town for a while. Go stay with family somewhere. Let this die down. I don't have family. Not anymore. My mom and dad were in jail awaiting trial. My extended family had made it clear whose side they were on, and it wasn't mine. Aunt Beatrice had given an interview calling me ungrateful and disturbed. I was completely alone, except I wasn't. Davin refused to leave my side. His job offered him temporary remote work so he could stay with me. His parents called to offer their guest house upstate. Even Vanessa, who I'd just met, became a constant presence. Why are you helping me? I asked her one night. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're brave. I know you did the right thing. And I know what it's like to be blamed for a man's crimes. She showed me a scar on her wrist. My ex-husband tried to kill me 7 years ago. When I pressed charges, his family spent months destroying my reputation, called me a liar, said I'd attacked myself. The case eventually fell apart because I couldn't handle the pressure. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be strong. Be stronger than I was. Put that bastard away. She squeezed my hand. You have something I didn't. Evidence, truth, and people who believe you. The trial date was set for 6 months away. 6 months of waiting. 6 months of living in limbo while Uncle Freddy walked around free on bail, doing interviews and playing the victim. But then something shifted. One of Uncle Freddy's former business partners came forward, then another, then a woman who'd been his secretary 15 years ago. All with stories of manipulation, threats, financial crimes. The evidence mountain grew higher, and Uncle Freddy's perfect facade started cracking. He missed a court date, got caught violating the restraining order when he showed up at the restaurant where I was having dinner with Davin, got arrested again. This time, the judge revoked bail. Thank God, I whispered when Detective Novak called with the news. He's done, Novak said. Even if he beats some of the charges, he's going away for a long time. You're safe now. But was I? Uncle Freddy was locked up, but the damage remained. My name was permanently tied to this scandal. Every Google search would bring up articles about the case. Future employers would find the news stories. Future partners would have questions. This would follow me forever. So we start over, Davin said when I voiced these fears. New city, new jobs, new life, together. You'd do that? Give up everything here? I'm not giving up everything. I'm choosing you. There's a difference. He pulled me close. Besides, I hear Seattle is nice. Or maybe Portland. Somewhere it rains a lot and nobody cares about Chicago scandals. I almost laughed. Almost. 3 months before the trial, my mom requested a meeting. She was out on bail, living in a halfway house, preparing to testify against Uncle Freddy in exchange for a reduced sentence. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear whatever excuse she'd prepared, but Vanessa convinced me. Closure, she said. You need it, even if she doesn't deserve it. The halfway house was depressing. Beige walls, scratched furniture, the smell of instant coffee and desperation. My mom looked smaller than I remembered. Older, her hair had gone completely gray in just a few months. Thank you for coming, she said, her hands wrapped around a styrofoam cup. I didn't say anything. I know sorry isn't enough. Nothing is enough. What we did to you? She started crying. I told myself we were trying to help you, that Freddy would take care of you, that we were securing your future. You were securing your future. I was just the price you were willing to pay. Yes, she met my eyes. Yes, that's exactly what we did, and I'll never forgive myself for it. I don't forgive you either. I know. I don't expect you to. She pushed an envelope across the table. This is everything I have. About $3,000. It's not much, but it's yours. I want you to have it. I looked at the envelope but didn't touch it. I'm testifying at the trial, my mom continued. I'm telling them everything. Every meeting, every decision, every moment we chose money over you, and I'm going to prison. 5 to 7 years if I'm lucky. Maybe longer. Good. She flinched but nodded. That's fair. That's what I deserve. She stood up. I don't expect you to visit me. I don't expect letters or calls or forgiveness. I just wanted to see you one more time, to tell you that you were always the best thing I ever did, even though I spent your whole life proving I didn't deserve you. She walked away before I could respond. I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at the envelope. Finally, I opened it. Inside was the money, like she'd said, but also photos. Old ones from when I was a kid, before the debt, before Uncle Freddy, before everything went wrong. In every photo, my mom was smiling, genuinely smiling, looking at me like I was precious. I wondered when that changed. When I stopped being her daughter and started being a commodity. If there was a specific moment or if it happened gradually, so slowly she didn't notice until it was too late. I left the envelope on the table and walked out. The trial started on a Tuesday in November. The courthouse was packed. Media lined the steps. Protesters held signs, some supporting me, some supporting Uncle Freddy. It was chaos. Inside, the prosecution laid out their case methodically. Financial records, forged documents, testimony from victims. My parents took the stand and told the truth, finally. Every sordid detail of their deal with Uncle Freddy. Then it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand on shaking legs. Uncle Freddy stared at me from the defense table. Even now, even in handcuffs and a prison jumpsuit, he looked smug. The prosecutor asked her questions. I answered them. Yes, he'd stalked me. Yes, he'd threatened me. Yes, I'd feared for my life. Then Uncle Freddy's lawyer stood up for cross-examination. Isn't it true, he said smoothly, that you and Mr. Morrison had a consensual relationship? No. Isn't it true that you pursued him? That you saw him as a way out of your family's financial troubles? No. Then why did you spend so much time with him? Why did you accept his gifts? Why did you continue seeing him if he made you so uncomfortable? Because he was threatening my family. Because I was scared. Because I was trying to document what he was doing so I could stop him. Or because you wanted his money and when he rejected you, you decided to destroy him? Objection. The prosecutor was on her feet. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done. The jury had heard the accusation. The trial lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of testimony, evidence, arguments. 3 weeks of having every moment of my life picked apart and questioned. Finally, it went to the jury. We waited for 2 days, the longest 2 days of my life. I barely slept, barely ate, just sat in Davin's apartment, staring at my phone, waiting for news. When the call came, I almost didn't answer. Guilty, Detective Novak said. On all counts. He's going away for 40 years minimum. I couldn't speak. You did it, he continued. You put away a predator. You saved lives. His next victim, she gets to live now because of you. After I hung up, I sat there in silence, waiting to feel something. Relief, maybe. Joy. Satisfaction. Instead, I felt empty. Davin came home an hour later with champagne and Thai food and a huge smile. We won. He's going to prison. Yeah, babe, this is good news. This is what we wanted. I know. I tried to smile. I don't feel anything. I thought I'd feel different once it was over. It's not over. Not really. Not yet. You're still processing. He sat down next to me. But you will heal. Eventually. We both will. He was right. Healing took time, therapy, distance. 6 months after the trial, we moved to Portland like Davin had suggested. Started over. New jobs, new apartment, new life. I changed my name legally, got a new email address, deleted all my social media, became someone else. Someone who wasn't defined by what Uncle Freddy had done to her. My mom wrote me from prison. I didn't write back. Maybe someday I would. Or maybe I wouldn't. Either way was okay. 2 years after the trial, I was working as a graphic designer at a small firm, living in a cute apartment with Davin, planning our wedding for the following summer, living a normal, boring, beautiful life. And then one day I got a call from Detective Novak. I thought you should know. Freddy died in prison last night. Heart attack. He was 52. I thanked him and hung up. I should have felt something. Relief, maybe. Closure. But instead, I just felt tired. That night, I told Davin. He pulled me close and said, "It's really over now. He can't hurt you anymore." He never stopped hurting me. Even from prison. Even with all this distance, he was still there. Still affecting my life. But now he's gone. And you're here. Living your life. On your terms. Davin tilted my chin up. You won. Not because he's dead, but because you survived. Because you built something beautiful from the ashes he left behind. Maybe he was right. I thought about the girl I'd been 3 years ago. Terrified. Trapped. Alone, and I thought about who I was now. Stronger. Scarred, yes, but stronger. Uncle Freddy had tried to destroy me. My parents had tried to sell me. The system had tried to break me. But I was still here, still breathing, still fighting, still living. And that, I realized, was the real victory. That night, I pulled out the envelope my mom had left me at the halfway house, the one with the photos. I looked at them for the first time since the trial, and I cried. Not for what was lost, but for what I'd gained, the strength to stand up, the courage to fight back, the wisdom to know my worth. I was never going back to being that scared girl. I was free, finally, completely free.